Hello everyone, welcome back to the Reese's Writing YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be ranking every Bong Joon Ho film that he's made. I know there's short films, anthology films that he's done. I'm not putting those in. These are the feature films that he's directed, and including Mickey 17, because I just recently watched that. And I got some things to say. Yeah. Okay. So I think he's done 8 films. 8 films so far. He is my favorite director. He's done 2, if not 3, of my favorite films ever that I've watched. So yeah, let's get into it. I didn't like it. I didn't like it that, compared to his other ones, I didn't like it. And in general, I didn't think it was a good film. I was getting bored. Bong Joon Ho walks a fine line in some of these films between tedious and amazing. And Mickey 17 is on the tedious side. I feel like there are good parts. There are good parts that need to be explored more. There are bad parts that were explored too much. It was just not focused enough for me. Like, I enjoyed the idea of having multiple clones of people, and the philosophical, social aspects of what you would do with multiples. I liked that, and I think could have been explored more in a more interesting way. I thought the aliens were a bit pointless. They were just sort of there, and there was a lot of tedious things that just kept the plot going that didn't need to be there. And I think Mark Ruffalo had some good parts. He had some bad parts. I don't think the couple, the main villainy couple, were that sort of I didn't feel emotionally attached to how they were acting. Like, to other people, they weren't being that bad, they weren't being that good. It was kind of something in between. So yeah, I didn't like it. I felt it went on too long. The beginning was really weird. I think, like, the intro to the whole thing, the title, before the title card ever came up, I think it may have been like 20 minutes or something crazy like that. Just didn't gel with me. So it's at the bottom. People like this film. People think this is one that, is a really good film. It's just, I think the whole disaster and the family comedy is really well done in this film. This is like a big monster film, where this weird monster comes out of the river in Seoul and starts killing people, taking them into places. I feel like, the beginning, the initial discovery of the monster, the sort of panic surrounding the monster is really good, really well done. The whole press coming into this family, like asking them questions, was hilarious. There's a lot of good moments, but I think it drags on too much near the end. I just wanted it to stop. I just wanted it to finish. The resolution lasted forever, and that's what really brought it down to 7. Yeah. I just think it dragged on too much, a bit like Mickey 17. The first feature film he made ever. It's about this couple that live in a apartment building, and this dog keeps barking, and the guy gets really annoyed, and he sort of meets another girl that's in the apartment building. They sort of make a friendship, and it's all about him sort of conquering fears and, you know, overcoming boundaries and like discovering this into like sort of underground sort of thing that's going on in the apartment building. And it's fun. It's you know, there's not much going on in terms of story. I think it's probably quite low budget, so it's, you know, there's no big effects or anything, but it's got that dark comedy that I enjoy with Bong Joon Ho's stuff. It didn't last too long, which is quite a big thing for me. I've noticed it didn't drag, and yeah, it's quite simple in its ways, but it has sort of a bit of intrigue of like who's doing what. I don't want to spoil much, but it involves dogs, and in a very sort of dark way. If you get sort of triggered by animal cruelty, then don't really watch this, although it's not, none of them were harmed. But there are parts where you're like, what, did they actually do this type of stuff? So yeah, nothing too exciting, but good comedy and a sort of quirkiness that you find in the sort of beginning of a director's sort of journey, which, you know, it's surprising to have a director's first film at the, you know, somewhere near the middle, that's not its worst, but not its best, which is good. And yeah, I just quite enjoyed this film. This is a sort of newer one. It was sort of gone straight to Netflix, and it's all about sort of the meat industry, like battery farming, and in the sort of near future they find this, they sort of DNA create this pig-like beast, and they give out prototypes, or like the first babies of these pigs, to various farmers across the world to see which ones are bigger. It's all sort of very capitalistic, like the problems with capitalism and like social media as well, like how companies use social media to help them, you know, get popularity and get their products across. And it's about this girl forming a bond with this creature type thing, and not wanting the company to get rid of it, essentially. And yeah, it's quite heartfelt. The creature's quite good, well done visually. I think the host as well, going back to the host, I think that was really done quite well for such a sort of low budget, or what felt like low budget. Yeah, the same with Okja. These are sort of, they feel quite visceral, these creatures. And the big company has some cool characters, some interesting characters as their sort of main villain that wants to stop them. I think they're quite sort of like stereotypical type villains, but they have sort of interest and intrigue to them, which makes them sort of more interesting than certain villains like the one in Mickey 17. That just, I don't know, it didn't really feel like he had that much intrigue about them. Yeah. Okja was good though, a good sort of journey. I wasn't a huge fan of Paul Dano's character. He was very weird in this. I don't know if he's just generally weird in the films he does, because I think he was pretty weird in Little Miss Sunshine. He was a bit of a weird character. He's very sort of gentle, but also just a bit of a weirdo. I don't quite know what he's trying to go for in Okja, really. But quite a good sort of look at battery farming, the problems with farms in general, like killing animals for meat, and the problems philosophically and like ethically, the problems, and this sort of creating a science fiction like big animal sort of creates a sort of a way to grasp onto those problems and sort of deal with them in the film, which is good, which I enjoyed. So yeah, that is number 5. I really enjoyed the world, this sort of post-apocalyptic world of being on a train, and they have to keep on the train to stay alive in this sort of snowy tundra, and they have these sort of hierarchies of wealth. So the further you get up the train, the more richer people are, and they have like schools, and like they have really fabulous dining areas, and then right at the back of the train you have the lower class, the workers that sort of shovel coal into the engine or something like that. You know, they do the dirty work essentially, and they get fed these weird like jelly meat scrap stuff, which is pretty horrible. And I really enjoyed the class structural problems that are put in this film. And the battle to get through this train to try and figure out what happened to a certain character. And I just really loved the sort of the closeness everything had, because it's, you know, it's in this sort of constant train that's always moving, and they have this whole like lore about going around the train tracks every, you know, year or something, and they have this sort of celebration that they've gone a revolution or something. I'm not entirely sure, but and the boss, the like villains, Tilda Swinton does some great stuff in this one, as well as Okja. She does a really good job in Snowpiercer. And then you have this mystery of who is driving the train, who is this sort of leader, this like godlike person that's the front to this train, who is it? And like that sort of mystery keeps you sort of hooked as well. So yeah, a really good action-packed film with a lot of moments and a lot of scenes. They'll stick with me. And the ending, I think, it was all right. I didn't think the ending was that amazing. It was quite open. It was an open ending. There was sort of mystery behind the whole thing, which is quite good, but I think there was should have been a bit more sort of impact maybe. But there you go. But Snowpiercer's fucking great, and go see it. The big one that he's known for, he won the Best Picture and Best International Film, which is great. Really deserved it for this film. This is a sort of family, yet again, dealing with class structure, class boundaries, like the divide between the upper class and the lower classes, the problems that lower class people face that upper class people sort of take, and, you know, they make fun of, or, you know, they turn their nose up at it, and that sort of gets under the skin. And it's all about sort of the latching on of the lower class to upper class, but it's almost like they have no other way of making a living without sort of sucking up to the upper class. It's a good sort of analogy for, you know, capitalism in general, the sort of pyramid type scheme of, you know, the money creates jobs, so you know you have to sort of keep your sort of latch on to richer people, because they're the ones that have the money, so they have the power. And it's also got some really good funny moments. There's a really great moment, very dark, but, you know, just out of nowhere. And I think Bong Joon Ho does this really well. These sort of physical comedy, but also quite dark, and just some awkward moments as well. And like, I think every sort of character in it has the little tweaks, the little quirks that make Bong Joon Ho's characters so good in Parasite. And it's about a real crime case that never got fully solved. Is a serial killer who comes after women, and he kills them in such horrific ways. He rapes them and things, and it's about the case that comes out of it, the inadequacies of police. I think that is explored a lot in this film, and the inadequacies of law, and how, they're like, you from the outside you think they're very restricted, they're very like regimented, but they're not, especially in the country. They're, people leave to go to cities and things, so countryside police are sort of very much dealing with everyday type things, but when a big murder case comes on, it shows the sort of inadequacies within that police station, but also the goodness, where like that personal touches. They know everyone around, they know the families, and I think it has some great physical comedy as well. Yet again, there's a lot of kicking and falling over, which I found very funny. It has this big sprawling crime case that keeps you hooked throughout. This also does really vast landscapes really well. Bong Joon Ho does some really amazing shots of landscapes, fields in particular, like wheat fields, and crime scenes with lots of people sort of searching for bodies, and a really sprawling big thing, but also has this sort of contained narrative throughout it, and it shows this sort of detective dealing with all these sort of inadequacies and very little evidence, or what evidence there is, it gets sort of contaminated, or it gets harder to find out who did it. So yeah, really, really good film. So this is about a son who sort of gets in trouble with the law again, and it's about the mum trying to figure out how to sort of clear the son's name, but the son has sort of learning difficulties, and I think this is sort of the perfect middle ground between Memories of Murder, of its sprawling big crime, and Parasite sort of. I think Parasite is really perfect, but too perfect. It's almost like everything's so clean that it's on point and things, and I like a little bit of sort of rough and tumble, type thing. And I think Mother is a perfect balance between Bong Joon Ho's like sort of crime narratives he does so well, sort of keeping you hooked through evidence and the unraveling of cases, and this is just really good. It does some amazing like roller coaster narratives of like going up and down, like, oh, he did it, or like, oh, he didn't do it, and then those sort of weaves of uncertainty are done really, really well. And yet again does some amazing shots of landscapes and sort of searching along sort of rows of corn, which he does quite a lot. It's quite sort of his signature type thing between Mother and Memories of Murder, and it feels proper like visceral as well. Like, I think he does Rain really well. He does it in a really good places as well to show sort of emotional, feeling drowned, like they're never gonna sort of come back from it. And yeah, Mother is probably my favourite film of all time, and you should go watch it. It's, I think both the main characters do a really good job, and of this sort of, has he done it, has he not done it, and it's contained really well, and sort of is a much more limited sort of story, but it's really well developed and has a ambiguous, but also you know what happened, but in terms of emotional and like what happens after that, the steps that are taken after the ending are left sort of open, but in sort of it has this emotional release at the end, which I feel is quite nice, quite a good ending. And yeah, my favourite film and the number one on the Bong Joon Ho list. So what is your list for Bong Joon Ho films? Do you have a favourite? Have you watched all of them? What do you think? What did you think of Mickey 17 if you've watched it? Like, subscribe, comment if you have any other ideas for lists, directors that you would like to see. I think I have a few different video ideas for lists of directors, but I'm always up for ideas, so if you would like to see more, then put a comment. Yeah, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.